Tyla, alcoholic addict. I'm starting again because we're recording it. So we're on the doctor's opinion, and I want to thank the people that have been here to help set up this workshop, and Josh and Rick and Christine, all the people that have come here and helped us. It really is appreciated, and all the snacks and all the, we need it. Thank you. So this physical side of my addiction, I never got it. I never even got it. I was talking to Dave about it, and that I came in so sick and so messed up that sometimes that can block you from seeing the truth about your disease. Because why would I need to look at it? I mean, I came off the streets doing prostitution, for heaven's sakes, you know? It was horrible, right? And so sometimes the details of my addiction got blocked out by that, and not until I did the Big Book Awakening was I really clear on the physical side of this disease, because it explained many things for which I never had an answer. So it starts on page, on page X. I'm going to go through and read some of it and talk about it. Okay, doctor's opinion on page XXV25. We of Alcoholics Anonymous believe that the reader will be interested in the medical estimate of the plan of recovery described in this book. And I say, am I interested in it? Convincing testimony must surely come from medical men who have experienced the sufferings of our members and have witnessed their return to health. There's a promise. I'm going to mention the promises as I go through. Return to health. What a promise, you know. And a well-known doctor, chief physician at a nationally prominent hospital, especially in alcohol and drug addiction, gave Alcoholics Anonymous this letter. Dr. Silkworth got his degree from Princeton. His major was neurology. And he did his medical internship at Bellevue. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Bellevue in New York, but Bellevue is famous for being super hardcore for crazy people like us. But you Tree, you know it.
Oh, yeah.
What's Bellevue like?
It's like the worst psychiatric hospital you could ever imagine.
And that's where he did it. That's where he did his internship. So he was well prepared for us. So everything was going good in his life. The crash of 29 hit. He found himself without a job. And Towns Hospital already existed. And Towns, the guy that owned it, offered Dr. Silkworth a position at Towns Hospital, and at that time he took the job for $40 a week, and that wasn't even a lot then, but he took it, you know. And when you look at all the coincidences that happened that brought this together, and you can really see the hand of God, these things that could have never happened any other way, or the hand of your higher power, what you want to believe. But so he took the job and he started working there. And he saw things that no one saw. To whom it may concern, I have specialized in the treatment of alcoholism for many years and addiction. In late 1934, I attended a patient who, though he had been a competent businessman of good earnings capacity and an alcoholic of the type I had come to regard as hopeless. They're going to talk about 10 types of alcoholics in the doctor's opinion. Any of you know that? No. Me neither. I didn't know it till this week. They're going to talk about 10 types of alcoholics. This is the first type. And you can mark in your book if you wanted. The type I had come to regard as hopeless. In the course of his third treatment, he acquired certain ideas concerning the possible means of recovery. This is Bill W. As part of his rehabilitation, he commenced to present his conceptions to other alcoholics, impressing upon them that they must do likewise with still others. This has become the basis of a rapidly growing fellowship of these men and their families. That's a promise. I'll be part of a rapid growing fellowship. This man and over 100 others appear to have recovered. That's another promise. I can be recovered. And I asked myself, do I need to impress upon others that they need to work with others? Yes. I personally know scores of cases who were of the type with whom other methods had failed completely. That's type 2. That's the second guy in here. He's the guy that other things had failed completely. Type 1 is, I just talked about, as hopeless, but type 2 is powerless. You can be hopeless, but not powerless. These facts appear to be of extreme medical importance because of the extraordinary possibilities. I have notes. I take notes because I love this work. Okay. Has every method I tried to do to control my drinking and using failed? Do I see that it is the powerless condition and possibly in a physically sober state, even sitting in an AA meeting, or not that moves me to doing the plan of recovery described in this book? If not interested in the plan of recovery, then I still must have other methods that I believe will work. Then I'm not powerless, but maybe I'm hopeless. And you got the promises, okay? I'm going to go to the next page. Growth inherent in the group. They may mark a new epoch in the annals of alcoholism. These men may well have a remedy for thousands of such situations. You can rely absolutely on anything they say about themselves. Am I willing to rely on what they say about themselves in this book? The physician who at our request gave this letter has been kind enough to enlarge upon his views in another statement which follows. In this statement, he confirms what we who have suffered alcoholic torture must believe. I didn't count the musts. I think this chapter has the most musts of any chapter. Does anyone know how many musts? But I think it has the most. So I know. I was thinking Richard will tell me, and he's not here. I think there's 103 musts in the big book in the first 164 pages, but I know there's so many here. So that I must believe that the body of the alcoholic and addict is quite as abnormal as mine. It did not satisfy me to be told that I could not control my drinking and using just because I was maladjusted to life. And I look at that and I think to myself, what does maladjusted to life mean to me? You know, to me, I always was trying when I was out there using and drinking, trying to get life to be adjusted to me. That is maladjusted. The way to live a spiritual life is to be able to have the power to adjust yourself to life and its situations, not to try to get life to adjust to you. I had problems at a job, F it, I'm out of here, right? I never had any tools to adjust myself to life situations because I designed clothes for 18 years. I could do whatever I wanted. I could call the shots, right? So I never was in a position where I had to learn some of the skills that I think normal people, even alcoholics, learn. So I came up short. I was maladjusted to life. Okay, I said, yeah, life didn't do what I wanted it to do. That I was in full flight from reality. And I used to always think when I was out there, you know, reality is highly overrated. You know, you guys, I mean, you know, I was designing clothes during the day and in the clubs at night, doing heroin and crack and alcohol and partying. And I never wanted to be in the real world. You know, I started using in the late 60s and 70s, you know, and we were love-ins and acid trips, and I was taking acid going to my classes at college in Missouri, right, and watching my teachers melt, and, you know, and it was just cool, you know. I mean, I thought it was cool. Now that I look back, it wasn't cool, but I was really messed up, you know, but I would tell myself it was cool because anything I could do to get out of reality. Because reality wasn't cool for me. Okay. I was in full flight from reality, and I was an outright mental defective. I knew something was wrong with me mentally. I remember one time, I lived with an undercover cop for 11 years, and I got narcotics. I had a lot of connections. So I got in one of the numerous fights, and I was living up in Bel Air, and I moved to Westwood, right? And I remember I couldn't function without speed, and at that time I couldn't focus. You know, I knew something was wrong with my brain. Like, I couldn't focus unless I had, that time it was Dexedrine and Dexamil, and I was taking those, and I remember sitting there one day, I was out of speed in pill form, and I thought, I can't even function. I can't even think. You know, I knew something was really defective about me. But I always knew that. I remember that, and you probably, a lot of you do too. I remember that as a child thinking something's wrong with me, but I didn't have a family where you could go and say it, you know. But I remember thinking, I am not right. That doesn't mean that you have to be not right to be an alcoholic. You can live in Rancho, drive a Benz, and, you know. Okay. These things were true to some extent, in fact, to a considerable extent with some of us, but we are sure that our bodies were sickened as well. In our belief, any picture of the alcoholic which leaves out this physical factor is incomplete. You see, in order for me to be powerless over drugs and alcohol, I have to be powerless physically and I have to be powerless mentally. If I'm only powerless over one of those, I'm not powerless. If I'm only powerless physically, I lose control of how much I use or drink once I put it into my system, right? But I'm not powerless mentally. I just don't go to the bar or the dealer. So if I'm powerless mentally, I can't keep myself away from the bar or the dealer, but I'm not powerless physically, I just won't go. It's not a problem. Does that make sense? Did that make sense to you, Lisa? Did that make sense to you guys? I have to be powerless with both of them, mentally and physically, to be powerless. Okay? Did I explain that right? Okay. The doctor's theory that I have an allergy to alcohol interests me. Does it? As laymen, our opinion as to its soundness may, of course, mean little, but as ex-problem drinkers and users, we can say that his explanation makes good sense. It explains many things for which we cannot otherwise account. And it's like Dr. Silkworth saw that we have Rodney knows this, there you are, that we have an abnormal reaction to alcohol and drugs, a sensitivity, like an allergy. And at this time, I always suggest, and I'm going to suggest it to you, that you talk in the next couple weeks to a normal drinker. I don't want you going out to find a normal drug user. Go talk. I always, when I do my groups at my house, right, Rick? I always have people, I come back and report. I want them to report talking to that normal drinker about the physical craving and the mental obsession, and they'll look at you like they don't. But it's really good to hear it because I feel I learned more about it from a normal drinker than I did from alcoholics and addicts because they're not like me. They can have 2 drinks and stop. They can have 1 drink and stop. They can leave it in the glass, right? They're not like me. So he saw like strawberries. I have an allergy reaction like strawberries. If I eat strawberries and break out in a rash, say you're allergic to strawberries. So when I drink alcohol or drugs and I lose control over the amount, once it's in my system, I break out in a physical craving for more beyond anything I can bring to mind. My mind can't stop me. It's abnormal. It's like this. They take 10 people, they line them up there, and 10 people, and they talk to each one of them about the physical craving. 8 of them don't have the physical craving. They're not alcoholic, but 2 of them do. It's an abnormal reaction. The norm is those 8 people. I have an abnormal reaction to alcohol that is not the norm. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay. Though we work out our solution on the spiritual as well as the altruistic plane, 2 planes, we favor hospitalization for the alcoholic who is still jittery and befogged. More often than not, it is imperative that a man's brain be cleared before he's approached. Okay, let me go over my notes. Do I confirm that I suffered alcoholic torture? Is my body as abnormal as my mind? Have I been treated by professionals and still couldn't stop or control after the first drink or drug? Does the doctor's theory make good sense to me? Okay, I'm going to go on to the next page. As he has a better chance of understanding and accepting what we have to offer. That's a promise. The doctor writes, this is the second letter of Dr. Silkworth. I'm not going to read it all, but he addresses here on the 3rd paragraph, the doctors have realized for a long time that some form, it says moral psychology. What does that mean? It's a doctor's way of saying spiritual experience. Doctors saw this. Silkworth saw what was wrong with us, saw what we needed and admitted he couldn't do it. The same as Carl Jung was going to do in There Is a Solution. that some form of spiritual experience was of urgent importance to alcoholics, but its application of a spiritual experience prevented difficulties beyond our conception. What with our ultramodern standards, our scientific approach to everything, we are perhaps not well equipped to apply the powers of God that lie outside our synthetic knowledge. Doctors can't help me get that spiritual experience that I need. And then he's going to talk about someone else, which is Bill W. Later he requested, this is Bill, the privilege of being allowed to tell his story. When I'm working with people, do I consider it a privilege or a duty? The book is saying it's a privilege. And you know, that really hit me because I hadn't seen that before. This is a privilege, because sometimes after you do it a lot, you're like, you know, I mean, I'm not going to tell you it's always, right, Natasha? It's not always easy. You kind of just, but they're telling me it's a privilege, and I love that. Allowed to tell the stories to other patients, and with some misgivings, we consented. Now, you're cracking up, right? Me too, Betty. Because I get this picture in my head, right? Bill W.'s in there. He was in Towns Hospital 4 times, right? This is his 4th time he's in Towns Hospital, right? And he has this white light, spiritual experience, feels and sees God, and everything changes, right? Now, he went to Silkworth and said, this is what happened. First he said, am I crazy? And Dr. Silkworth said, no, I think it's the sanest you've been. And then he wanted to go around and tell people what had happened to him and talk to him. This was a huge risk that Dr. Silkworth took, because Dr. Silkworth could have lost his position. He could have lost everything behind this. I mean, this is Bill. Oh, I saw God. I saw white light. I'm going to go tell everybody. And Silkworth said, okay, and he let him. And I think that shows that something inside of Dr. Silkworth, to me, was working beyond the norm of the circumstances of that day. This was unusual. Not just it was unusual then, it was more unusual then than it would even be today. They weren't as far out as we are. The unselfishness of the cases we have followed through have been most interesting. In fact, many of them are amazing. Okay, this is 3 attitudes that we need when we're working with others. You can mark the unselfishness. That's an attitude I need. 1. Of these men as we have come to know them. 2. The entire absence of profit motive. I don't use anyone that I sponsor for any things. They don't do my hair. They don't give me massages. They don't do anything. I have to be very careful that it's a free, equal relationship, because I work with people that are masseuses or this and hairdressers. I don't do it. I mean, that's my boundary for the way that I work with people and how I take care of my being of service and working with others. I don't want that person for 1 minute to think I have an ulterior motive, anything I want from them, but to be helpful. Okay. The entire absent profit motive and their community spirit. I have to have a community spirit. This is a community of fellowship. That's another attitude. Is indeed inspiring to one who has labored long and wearily in the alcoholic field. They believe in themselves and still more in the power that pulls chronic alcoholics back from the gates of death. Do I confirm that I've suffered? I'm sorry, hold on, you guys. No, I read you that one. Oh, I'm sorry. It's on the bottom. Okay. Of urgent importance, the spiritual experience and moral psychology. What has made me want a spiritual experience? Do I see it's of urgent importance to me being sick in sobriety? The promise, it pulls chronic alcoholics back from the gates of insanity or death, sober or drunk. Okay. This is probably, to me, the next 2 pages are the most important pages. I want to also say that some of the ideas that you're going to hear from me have come from a book that Dave Marquez is doing. I've been working with a new workbook that Dave has done on the big book, and I'm very grateful for this. It isn't out yet for everyone, but it will be, and it has taken me further, and I'm just, sometimes It's taken me 3 weeks to kind of feel like there was a hardness around my heart. Does that make sense? You know, like I just suddenly feel like my heart is opening to the work again because I've done it so much. And sometimes you don't even know that your heart can get hardened around it until you start doing it. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay, so we're on page X28. I want to just finish. Of course, an alcoholic ought to be freed from his physical craving for liquor, and this often requires a definite hospital procedure before psychological measures can be a maximum benefit. We believe, and so suggest a few years ago, that action of alcohol on these chronic alcoholics is a manifestation of an allergy. That the phenomenon of craving is limited to this class and never occurs in the average temperate drinker. So if it never occurs in them and it's ever occurred in me, I'm not like them. Now, to me, the average temperate drinker is a moderate drinker. I don't know what you guys think about that, but I was all into this earlier this week, because if you look up temperate, it's mild. That's what it means. So I consider it the moderate drinker because it says when we get further into, there is a solution, right? That the real alcohol, the hard drinker can look more like an alcoholic than the alcoholic. So I have to say, well, can the hard drinker have loss of control? Like physical craving? I don't know. I've worked with a lot of people and I think they can. So, what do you think, Lisa?
I don't know. I've never been one.
Well, but you've worked with people. I've worked with people that I've had to say, you're a hard drinker. You're not an alcoholic, right? So I question, and I tried to get in touch with Dave before I came here today, because I think it's such an interesting question. Because it says, if it's never occurred in a moderate drinker, and it's ever occurred in me, I'm not like them. I'm not a moderate drinker, no problem. I'm not a moderate drug user, ever.
Can you be a light drinker and an alcoholic?
Yeah.
A light? If you drink, you mean drink a light drink or drink 2 beers a day? You can't. If you don't have loss of control, and if you have loss of control, you're not going to be a light drinker. Does that make sense to you?
I have loss of control after 2. Like I'm gone.
I have loss of control after 1. You don't have to drink a lot to have loss of control. You got what I'm saying? Does that make sense to you?
Yes, but I think the hard drinker can have the physical craving.
Me too. I know. That's why I'm asking it.
Them and us is given sufficient
Reason. Exactly. Yeah, no, exactly. I agree with you. That's what. But I'm going to see what Dave's bigger expert on this than me. Okay. I want to go back.
Real quick.
Well, sure, Greg.
So you're saying the possibility exists if someone has the phenomenon of craving, they may be a hard drinker.
I'm saying that, but I haven't, this is so new to me, having doing the work with the new stuff that Dave did, that I want to say, I never saw this, so I want to make sure I run it by some people that know more than me, so I can come back with a better answer, you know what I'm saying, to you, because that's what it seems to me, but I'm not going to say them 100% right, you know what I mean? So next week I'll, stay tuned. Oh, no, you're not. Oh, no. I know you ain't. Okay.
Before I became an alcoholic, before I crossed that line.
Well, they say that. Well, we'll talk about that, and there is a solution. They talk about that. They talk about the real alcoholic starting out as a moderate or hard drinker, but not everyone does. Okay. These allergic types. Am I the allergic type? Loss of control once I put any alcohol or dope in my system. Can never safely use alcohol in any form at all. That means Valium, Xanax, oxycodone. Poppers. Who else has got it? What else can't we use? Listen, I sponsored a girl that drank Jean Naté perfume. Do you guys know what Jean Naté perfume is? It is it's like the worst thing in the world. You can't drink perfume. Grain alcohol. What?
Listerine.
Listerine. Rodney, you better have some back there. You're sitting too quiet.
Hand sanitizer.
Hand sanitizer. That's a new one. They're drinking it. They're drinking it.
Tide Pods.
Bath salts. Spice. You guys don't even see me after the meeting. Okay, here we go. I'm not going to give you an education on it. Okay. These allergic types can never safely use alcohol in any form at all. And when you're working with someone, we're going to talk about the forms. It doesn't mean that if they're seeing a doctor and they need antidepressants, no, that's not what it's talking about. Because you're going to hear a lot of opinions in Alcoholics Anonymous about taking antidepressants and sobriety. And that, people need to stay out of it. It's between you and your doctor. And don't let anyone give you the opinion that if you're taking them, that you're wrong for I know people that have blown their brains out behind that kind of nonsense. Okay? That's Tyla's opinion. And I formed the habit, and once having formed the habit and found I cannot break it. Did I form the habit? Could I break it? No. Once having lost their self-confidence, their reliance upon things human, their problems pile up on them and become astonishingly difficult to solve. What are they talking about? Okay, when I was using and drinking, in the beginning, I could hold my job. I could show up to work on time, right? I could go to family's Thanksgiving. I could return phone calls, right? I was living an average, responsible, loaded life, if there's such a thing. I mean, it's because of what I did too. If I was working in a bank, I wouldn't have got away with it. But because I designed clothes, I got away with a lot of stuff you couldn't get away with it being an artist, So as my addiction progressed, more and more, because I was out 23 years, that's a long time. And so it took a long time for it to progress. At 5 years sober, I became a heroin addict. 5 years. At 5 years of using, I became a heroin addict at 25 and did heroin for 6 years. As my disease progressed, I became less able to show up to work on time, ducked Thanksgiving, ducked phone calls from especially my mom or dad, who I did not want to talk to when I was loaded, right? Quit paying my bills on time. My problems piled up on me and became astonishingly difficult to solve. So I lost my self-confidence, the confidence in myself that I could take care of me. I lost that. Okay. Now I'm going to go back to this with you for a minute. It's going to give me 6 things here that happened to me. I'm going to go back with you. These allergic types can never safely use alcohol in any form at all. Physically powerless. That means physically powerless.
Where are you, Tyler? What page?
We believe, and so suggested. I'm at the same paragraph. See where it says?
28.
Yeah, these allergic types can never safely use alcohol in any form at all. That is physically powerless. Once having formed the habit and found they cannot break it, that's mentally powerless. Once having lost their self-confidence, their reliance upon things human, that's spiritually powerless. Their problems pile up on them and become astonishingly difficult. Their problems pile up on them. Their problems inside of them and outside of them. Not just your outside problems, but also your inside problems. Pile up on them and become astonishingly difficult to solve, unmanageability. Okay? Any questions? Okay. Frothy emotional appeal seldom suffices. Mine or theirs. The message which can interest and hold these alcoholic and addict people must have depth and weight. In nearly all cases, their ideals must be grounded in a power greater than themselves if they are to recreate their life. There's a promise my life will be recreated. Is this about quitting drinking and drugging, or is this about recreating my life? I'm not going to go, I don't want to read the psychiatrist. The bottom of that paragraph, we feel after many years of experience that we have found nothing which has contributed more to the rehabilitation of these men than the altruistic movement now growing up among them, okay? Now this is the first description of untreated alcoholism, of unmanageability. Men and women drink and use essentially because they like the effect produced by alcohol and drugs. Do I like the effect? Do I know what the effect is? You guys are in for some surprises now. The sensation is so elusive that while they admit it is injurious, they cannot after a time differentiate the true from the false. To them, their alcoholic life seems the only normal one. It seemed, I was loaded more than I wasn't, so it seemed normal to me. Because I can't even remember hardly any time that I wasn't loaded. I mean, I would wake up in the morning and I'd go to bed with lines. I'm living with an undercover cop, by the way. So I had my own bathroom. So I would have lines on this cool little rock thing. I'd have lines of heroin and lines of cocaine in the drawer. Because by the time I was waking up, I was going through withdrawals from heroin. So I'd jump up, run in, snort some of the heroin, hop back in bed, let it take effect, then go up, take some cocaine about an hour later so I could get up and go to work, right? But my whole life revolved around managing my addiction. It took up every bit of my life. And I was very successful designing clothes, but my main, my main focus was drugs and alcohol, getting loaded. They are restless, irritable, and discontented. Uneasy, easily annoyed, and never satisfied. Is that not the story of your life? I mean, that to me is the story of my life. I never was satisfied. I was always restless, and I was always discontent. Maybe there was a few moments when I got all the drugs together just right. Right? But then it wouldn't last. I'd have to do 2 more lines and be nuts. Okay. Unless they can again experience a sense of ease and comfort. I want to read you some notes. I think you're going to like these. I think these will make you think. Not that you don't think. Craving never occurs in the non-alcoholic. Is this about not drinking or recreating my life? Why do we drink? For the effect? What can we differentiate, the true from the false? What life seems the only normal one? What comes by taking a few drinks? Sense of ease and comfort? Do I see I have no idea what's going to happen once I start? Do you guys see that? Can you always predict what's going to happen? Can you? That's kind of the fun of it. What the hell? My life was just a roll of the dice. Right? Can I safely use alcohol or drugs in any form at all? Did I lose my self-confidence in my ability to stop drinking? Was I emotionally powerless? Did it become clear to me that I lost my reliance on things human to keep me sober, job, family, spiritually powerless? Have my problems inside and out piled up on me and became astonishingly difficult to solve? The unmanageability? What makes me realize that frothy emotional appeal won't work? Mine or theirs? I mean, how many of us looked in the mirror and just begged ourselves, what's wrong with you? Stop, right? Honestly, I never wanted, when I was answering all these questions with the great new questionnaire book, I did, all those questions, I never wanted to stop. I wanted to control it. I knew that I couldn't exist without using. That wouldn't have been a thought that would ever, I know it does to other people, it didn't occur to me. But I always thought if I could just control it, I could control the high, I could control the problems, I'd be okay. And that was always my wish. And my mental defense that I had about picking up was that what I would tell myself is, people say, listen, I had a crack dealer in friggin' Rialto, California, cut me off. Who does that? He said, you're out of, his name was Willie. You're out of control, Tyla, and I'm not selling any crack for 2 weeks. I was so mad at that guy. Oh my God. Right? I mean, this is what I tell myself. People would say to me, you have a problem. You need to get help. Well, I'd get rid of those friends, right? Then you go down to some friends that maybe, it was hard to find people that used more than me, right? Is it true, Lisa? It's hard. It was hard. But then I get some other friends, right? And they say, you got a problem. You know what I'd say? You need to quit. I'd say, I could quit if I want to. That was, what was your mental defense statement that you, that's what I'd always say, I could quit if I want to. I just don't want to. Because that would cover me, you know. Then I could keep using. Okay, got some more for you. Okay, I got some good ones for you. I'm just blown away by some of this stuff myself, and it's hard to blow me away sometimes. What gives me the idea that I drink because I like the effect? What gives me that idea? I tell myself so. Oh, we gotta talk. Listen up. When I reached the effect I wanted, wait, listen. Okay, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna score some meth, Greg, because I want that warm, fuzzy feeling in my stomach. So I'm smoking my meth or shooting my meth, whatever I'm doing. Could I stop when I got to the warm, fuzzy feeling in my stomach?
No. Thinking about the next one.
Yay! Right? Could you stop? If I drink and use because of the way I want to feel, can I stop when I get to the place of the way I want to feel? Okay. When I reached the effect I wanted, could I stop or maintain? Did I know what the effect was I wanted and how it felt? Once I took the first drink or drug, was I able to discern when I got the effect I wanted? Most of the time, I didn't know what the effect I wanted was. Even if I knew what the effect is that I want, the phenomenon of craving makes it impossible for me to stop when I get there.
Then I want it longer and I want more.
I don't even know it.
I don't even know what I even wanted.
There, now you're talking truth. That's so true, right? We all think we know the effect, but I'm giving you some questions here that I hope will make you look deeper into this. Okay, do I see that what is false, listen very carefully, do I see that what is false about thinking the first drink or drug for the effect, taking the first drink or drug for the effect, was very likely a self-delusion driven by a mental obsession?
There you go.
Do I see that the effect I'm chasing is made elusive by the powering over of the phenomenon of craving? More important, the effect is an illusion. And most important, that I was chasing a lie. Do I see that if I'm seeking a sense of ease and comfort, listen to this. Do I see that if I'm seeking a sense of ease and comfort in anything other than my higher power, I'm still sober, that it's by the grace of God and nothing else? Promises my life will be recreated. Okay.
So when you said that if we're taking the shot or whatever, the injection of crystal meth again.
Can you say that again, honey?
I said, can you explain? Trying to make it make sense. But if we're like when I was getting high, I was chasing like that first initial high that I had that felt so good. So I wasn't really chasing it. That's what you're saying. That's not what I was.
You're chasing a lie.
Good job.
And I say to you, take all of these statements that I've made, take it home and meditate on it and think back in your history and see, because that's what I did. And it was true for me. You know, I could say I did it for the effect, but what was it?
Can you repeat the last
Yeah.
sentence?
Mhm. I have the notes up here so you can certainly look at them after. Okay. Do I see that do I see that the effect I'm chasing is made elusive by the powering over of the phenomenon of craving? More important, the effect is an illusion, and most important, that I was chasing a lie. Is that the one you wanted?
The one after that, but I can look at it afterwards.
Okay. I want to go to the next page.
So is yours that you were chasing a lie? Is that your answer?
What, honey?
Is your answer that you were chasing a lie?
Yeah.
When?
Well, because what they're saying to me, I'm chasing a lie. I never saw this, because the mental obsession creates a lie, a delusion that tells me a story about why I need to use, and every time it could be different. Do you guys see this? And I want to say, oh, I drink for the effect, or I use for the effect, or whatever I do for the effect. Really? I use when I'm happy, I use when I'm sad, I use when I'm numb, I use when I want to get numb. It's always, to me, it was a lie. There was never any set thing. My mind can create a reason for me to pick up because I have a mind that the main problem centers and I'm nuts. Right? I mean, take this. Don't take anything I say for, oh yeah, that happened to me. Take it home and chew on it. You know what I mean? Take it to meditation. Look back in your history and come back and say, you know, and see what you experienced looking back in your history. Okay? Okay. Okay. I got enough. Okay. So you know how we say that I have to find the same ease and comfort in this program that I found out there in drugs and alcohol? If I'm living my sober life, my recovered life, seeking the same ease and comfort that I had out there, nothing's changed. What? Nothing's changed. I have the same mindset I did out there. I need to find a power that I have ease and comfort with, irregardless of the things in my life. That if life is falling apart, I can have a sense of security with my higher power. I don't need to seek the same ease and comfort. I cannot worship comfort in sobriety. It will distort my existence. Oh, I can't be sober and uncomfortable. Oh, yes, you can, because life is uncomfortable. You can have a higher power that will walk every step of the way with you. You know, Christy. Okay. Sense of ease and comfort, which comes at once by taking I don't even know what time it is. What time is it?
4.
Okay, I'm going to wrap it up. Just give me a couple minutes.
We've got all night, Tyler.
Sense of ease and comfort, which comes at once by taking a few drinks or drugs, which they see others taking with impunity. Nothing happens to them. After they have succumbed to the desire again, as so many do, and the phenomenal craving develops, they pass through the well-known stages of a spree, becoming remorseful, never to do that again. This is repeated over and over. Unless that person can experience an entire psychic change, the same as Carl Jung talked about with the spiritual experience, there is very little hope of his recovery. On the other hand, and strange as this may seem to those who do not understand, once a psychic change has occurred, the very same person who seemed doomed, did I feel doomed? Oh boy, did I. Who had so many problems that he despaired of ever solving them, suddenly finds himself easily able to control his desire for alcohol because of the grace of God. And the only effort necessary being that it required take a few simple steps, simple rules, the 12 steps. Okay. I have so many notes that I want to just read you some of them. No, we're almost done. And then I have little questions in that bag there for you guys to answer. You get to pick a question and answer a question. Psychic change, I need to follow rules. Were there times I see that I continued to drink because of a craving beyond my mental control, driven by the delusion of drinking for the sense of ease and comfort? promises, able to control his desire, and to have the essential psychic change. I want to go over to, I'm going to finish with this page with a couple things. There are many, top of the page, Dr. Silkworth said, bottom of the page before, they took a drink a few days or so prior to a date, these businessmen that had all these plans. This happened to me. I was designing clothes and my grandfather had a heart attack. He was in the hospital. I was leaving downtown LA where I was working, which is where the garment business is, and I was driving to the hospital to see my grandfather. I was important to see my grandfather, right? But I thought I'd do a little coke on my way to see my grandfather. I never saw my grandfather, right? I go down here and take a little and I'm off like that. And this answered many questions which I did not understand. I didn't understand many things that happened to me because I didn't understand the phenomenal craving. You know, I knew something was wrong with my mind. But I know that I could have an idea, I could start here and then end up over there. Or call AAA. Can I tell them your story? You can tell them at the open sharing. Oh, she has a funny story. Oh, she has funny stories. No, I just got to tell them one. You know, I was working with Christy for 20 years. When I was first doing the work with her, she says to me, I broke into this coke dealer's house and I stole his coke, right? But I left his money. I couldn't believe she left the money. I said, what? Is it true? She left the money. I love that story. I mean, I never heard that from anybody. She goes, I stole the coke, but I left the money. Okay, bottom of the page. They took a drink a day or so prior, and then the phenomenal craving at once was paramount to all other interests. They didn't make their business dates or anything. These men were not drinking to escape. They were drinking to overcome a craving beyond their mental control. Is that me? Okay. Next paragraph. There are many situations which arise out of the phenomenal craving which cause men to make the supreme sacrifice, suicide. I was suicidal, homicidal many times out there. More homicidal. Okay, now they're going to give us, I told you they're going to talk about 10 types of alcoholics in the doctor's opinion, okay? We already talked about 3. Let me see where the third one was. Okay, I'm sorry. The third one is the bottom of page, if you want to know. 29, the page I just read. Many types do not respond to the ordinary psychological approach. That's number 3. Okay. Do you see it? Tree, do you see it? Okay, you guys see it? I'll show you. Okay, now they're going to go into more. The classification of alcoholics seems most difficult, and so is and in much details outside the scope of this book. So let's look at each type here, okay, that they're going to say. Do you see yourself in them? That's what's important. Do you see yourself when you're working with someone and sitting opposite? See if you get them to see themselves in them. Okay, the first type is the psychopaths, who are emotionally unstable. We are familiar with that type. You're always going on the water wagon for keeps. Anybody go on the water wagon for keeps? Anybody emotionally unstable? Oh. They're always going, they are over remorseful, make many resolutions, but never a decision. I made a lot of resolutions. I was not going to do more than 2 drinks or 4 lines of Coke or blah, blah, blah. There is the type, let me just tell you, the psychopath is number 4 type in your big book. There is a type of man who is unwilling to admit that he cannot take a drink. That's number 5. I was completely unwilling to admit that I couldn't do it because I didn't know how else I could live. How could I ever live without something? I mean, what's wrong with me? He plans various ways of drinking. He changes his brand and his environment. Anyone change their brand or their environment to see if they could control it? There is the type, this is number 6, there is the type who always believes that after being entirely free from alcohol or drugs for a period of time, he can take a drink without danger or a drug without danger. Yeah, I could go 2 days, and I felt like I could reward myself. Right, with a bender. No, I mean it. When I was out there, you know what I mean? I thought that a day or 2 was just awesome. This is number 7. There is a manic depressive type who is perhaps the least understood by his friends. Did your friends understand you? They didn't understand me. Any of you? Did all your friends understand you, Maria? Okay. And then there are the types, this is number 8, entirely normal in every respect except in the effect alcohol has upon them. They are often able, intelligent, friendly people. I don't know any of those. Okay. Bottom line, this is the bottom line of this whole chapter right here. This paragraph is the bottom line. All these and many others have one symptom in common. They cannot start drinking or drugging without developing the phenomenon of craving. This phenomenon, as we have suggested, may be the manifestation of allergy which differentiates these people and sets them apart. That's why I had to hang around with a lot of sick people, because I didn't want to feel different or apart. You know what? I would try to find people that I could say, I'm not as bad as them, right? It was hard. It has never been by any treatment with which we are familiar permanently eradicated. The only relief we have to suggest is entire abstinence. And I say, am I going for relief or am I going for recovery? And you may be going for relief when you're new, but hopefully you'll stay and you'll get recovery. Okay? I'm going to read you notes. Have I believed by stating and thinking I can't drink or drinking is not an option that will keep me from the first drink? And I drank again? Do I see I have drank when I didn't want to, feeling bad or feeling good? Feeling numb? Have I drank because I wanted to feel numb? Have I drank because I didn't want to feel numb? Have I drank because I wanted to feel something? Have I drank in spite of achieving emotional balance or emotional sobriety? Do I now see that if I've said yes to each of these previous questions, that for me, how I feel or my emotional state at any given moment has little to do with whether I drink or use again. When I don't want to or how much, I will drink once I start. Can I pull it off on my power, being abstinent? Just not drink, just don't use. And it's on the next page. It's going to talk about everything worthwhile in life and what we've lost there. So I'm going to go to the last page, because I'm not going to go to all of it. I earnestly advise, as Dr. Silk, earnestly advise every alcoholic and addict to read this book through and through. Perhaps he came to scoff. He may remain to pray. Thanks. I'm going to open up for sharing. What, baby? No, not now. Okay. Who wants to share? I have questions, or you can share about the phenomenon of craving.
I have a question. What was the final 2 types of alcoholics? You said there were going to be 10.
Oh, yes, that's very good. I'll tell you right now. They were on the other pages, which I didn't do. The other type is up at the top of page 31, where it says he had lost everything. He was a case of pathological mental deterioration. You see that? That's number 9. Number 10 is next to the last paragraph on that page. The patient had made his own diagnosis and deciding a situation hopeless. Okay? Had hidden in the barn to die. That's number 10. Hopeless. Situation hopeless.
What was
9 was where it says on the first paragraph on that page, pathological mental deterioration. See you, Christy? Okay. Who wants to share? Come on. Let's do it. Come on. Here. You want to just share, or do you want a question?
I'll just share everything.
Okay, good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, Kendall.
My name is Kendall, and I'm an alcoholic. I just wanted to share briefly. I'm doing the work in the Tuesday workshop. and I come here to supplement that because I believe that this program is inspired. I believe the program of AA is inspired, and I believe that this is, I believe it's pure uncut AA, which probably isn't an appropriate analogy, but uncut. What did I say? I'm an alcoholic. Yeah, I didn't. The reason I'm here, when I first started the workshop, and when I first started coming to these meetings, somebody posed the question from the podium, "Why am I here?" And I asked myself, "Why am I here?" And the answer that I have so far is that I had never been asked that question, and I didn't have. I was. People ask, relapse is a part of my story, and people often ask, what's different this time, what's changed for me this time? I didn't have any concept of living recovered or seeking recovery. So this thing that you just said, Tyla, about
Relief or recovery?
excuse me, yeah, seeking relief as opposed to seeking recovery, has my mindset been the same that it was before? Am I seeking the same stuff? And partly, yeah.
Ease and comfort.
Ease and comfort. I've been seeking up to very recently. I've been seeking the same things because I now know that I need to change everything, and I need to be around people that have changed everything and that are seeking to change everything. And so now, I don't have very much time, but I have just enough knowledge, and I'm very grateful to be alive, and that I am now, instead of just relief, I am seeking recovery, and I wanted to share that. Thank you.
Who wants to share? I think I found a couple. You want time? 3-minute sharing? Who wants to share? Who's doing the work? Come on, you want to share? You.
Chelsea's coming.
Hi, baby. Do you want a question?
Sure.
Are you doing the work?
Yes.
Good.
Okay.
See if you like that question. Some have one from both sides. Read the question in the mic.
Hi, my name's Kelsey. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Kelly.
Were there many situations while drinking which caused me to give up my life to drink rather than stop? Sorry, I'm so nervous I can't understand the question. So I'll just share about the physical allergy. Yes, I experienced a physical allergy when I drink. There was a situation a few months ago. I have like 98 days today. There was a situation a few months ago, and I was taken to the hospital because I was thinking about hurting myself. And then the next, 2 days later, maybe, I was drinking again. And a few days after that, I fell in my bathroom and smashed my face on my floor and was in physical therapy for weeks, and just, never enough to get me to stop. But I started doing BBA shortly after that incident in the bathroom. And since then, actually 2 days ago, my dad died. But I've been able, because of this program, to walk through his biggest transition in his life. That's something the program gave me, is one of the 9th step promises that's really true. Selfishness and self-seeking left me. I prayed every day to be useful and whatever God needed me to be for my family. And I've been able to be there. I fed my dad his last meals that he ate. And I'm here today. And I stayed sober through all of it. And it's because I did the work in this program. And I'm very thankful. I just wanted to share that with y'all.
Do you want a question or do you want to share?
I'm Rich. I'm a recovered alcoholic, and I can relate to this. I mean, I was not even chasing a lie. I knew when I drank, especially like she said, I don't think I ever did 2 days without drinking. I had pneumonia and I was drinking, and but if I had 2 or 3 days where I only drank a little bit, and my body was really feeling good, I knew when I picked up that drink, I didn't know where I was going to be, or I knew this was not going to end good, because My body was healthy enough to drink a lot, and it's just and it doesn't knowing that. And even I remember going into a liquor store knowing this is the worst thing I could possibly do for myself. And I knew I wasn't going to enjoy this, and I still would do it. I still did it I did it for years like that. So I know that self-knowledge isn't enough. I need God in my life. And I know if I walk away from God that self-knowledge, I could be out there again. So, I chase God like the bag. So thanks a lot.
Yay. Do you want a question? You want to read the question?
That was a hard one. That was a hard one. I answered.
Who wants to redo it? Hard. Way back.
Oh, this is the one?
There are ones on both sides, so that must be
Oh,
the
okay.
one for you.
My name's Moses. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Moses.
The question is, can I stay stopped on my own? And yes, by past experience, I can stop on my own, but stay stopped? No, not at all. That's why I'm here. That's what brought me here. I have no control over staying stopped. I find some kind of excuse or justify anything so I can go drink. Like anything good, anything bad, just because. I mean, like there's no in-betweens. There's any excuse will work. And I can justify that with my own mind, which I need others to kind of rein me in on. And I'm pretty glad I'm here, learning a lot, asking a lot, confused a lot, but that's why I'm here. So, yeah, thank you very much.
They have questions on both sides.
Hi, my name is Forrest. I'm an alcoholic addict. Hi, Forrest. What baffles me is that this information on our disease isn't well known. Like, I didn't know anything about the physical craving and the mental obsession and the spiritual malady until I came into the Big Book Awakening, much less, when I was out using and drinking. And, I'd like to say, I'm really grateful and thankful that I was able to experience the desperation and willingness, and God was able to bring me to this location and to the Big Book Awakening, and, it's really a blessing. And, whether you believe in God or a higher power yet, there's no doubt that He brought me and He brought everyone here for a reason. Let's see. Am I the type with whom every method I tried had failed completely? Is there anything else I can do? So I always thought I would grow out of it. That was my one. And, it was shocking when, years went by and I was still doing the same things and they were getting worse. And, switching from, different drug to different drug to different drug and combining them all, and nothing was working. It was astonishing. I knew that I had something wrong with me, but I just had no idea, what it was. And, thank God I was able to reach out for help and start this journey. I'm just blessed. So thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. You want a question, Sally? Oh. Go, Sally.
Sally Rock.
Sally, alcoholic.
Hi, Sally.
Wow, Tyler, when you said, did I see that the effect was an illusion? You may have just prevented some sort of future relapse for me. And I hope you did for anyone else that someday may be thinking about a relapse. Did I see that it was a lie? That really hit home, and I wrote it down that I am going to meditate on that. I just drove down the hill from Julian. I spent 3 days at a women's AA retreat, and I think God may have been mentioned. I'm trying to think. But I knew driving down the hill that I was coming to this, as tired as I was, where I would hear about God. And so I'm very grateful to be here. Let's see what I have. Oh boy, my eyes. Were there many situations while drinking which caused me to give up my life to drink rather than to stop? Occasions while drinking which caused me to give up my life. I don't get it.
To give up your job, your family.
Yeah, so I lived in Kensington, and it's like 2 blocks by 1 block, and that was my life. I actually thought at the end of Kensington that there was just a cliff and it stopped. And I learned later that I was pretty much right. Like, you could go down to Home Depot, but I didn't know anything of what was down that way. And there's a margarita restaurant and 2 wine shops and a pizza place that serves wine, and it was just a square. That was it. And I was on disability, and I was in the Ken Club, and I nailed a quilt to my front window in the living room, and that was my life. And it was progressive and dark. And I didn't want to be the only drunk. I didn't want to be the only town drunk, but I was the only female town drunk. So I had that. And sobriety has meant everything to me. Forming female friendships and other friendships, and I just can't believe how big my life is. And I'm so glad I finally feel comfortable here at BBA. It's kind of, so many people, especially on Wednesday night, but God has given me this gift, and all of you, so thanks very much.
You want a question?
Yes.
There you go, honey.
My name is Corey, and I'm an alcoholic and crystal meth addict.
Hi, Corey.
The thing that stood out for me with this work was, I was doing it with my sponsor, and we were going over all the little, the writings and whatnot, and we were talking about frothy emotional appeal. And I was like trying to come up with my own personal examples, and I was having to struggle with it, but I just recall my mother like on the phone pleading with me, please stop getting high. Please stop going to the hospital. My dad doing the same thing. We don't understand. You're well educated. We've given you every advantage. You've been set up for success. Why can't you stop doing this? Why can't you be like your other college friends and be successful? Why do you keep getting a little sobriety and wind up with a needle in your arm after like 30 or 90 days? And I just couldn't understand it either. And then on the flip side of that, like, especially for me, there's something about Joe C for me, just for me, and there's something about Tyler. But when Joe C speaks, it's like, bam! Because I was a relapser and he's a relapser, and I don't know, there's something special about him. Don't tell him I said this, but, there's just something special, because he does have a big ego. So the question is,
Joe doesn't have a big ego.
he doesn't, I know, but I give him a big time about it. Did my alcoholic life seem the only normal one? And then the other part of it is, am I restless, irritable, and discontented? I guess I'll take that. alcoholics seem normal. Yeah, it seemed normal to me because, you know, I could totally stop, and I thought I could control it. I would go to the ATM and I'd say, you know, I'm just going to take out $30. I'm just going to do that. And I would go to my dealer and I would say, I'm just going to buy this amount. And I'm saying goodbye to you right now. Let's have a hug. Let's have a kiss. I'm not gonna text you again tomorrow. It's just not gonna happen.
In an hour.
And then I would go back the next day, and I would have that same conversation. Totally convinced in my heart that was it.
What convinced you? Said you, I'm convinced in my heart. What convinced you?
Oh, the mental. Yeah, the thought that I could stop. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the mental obsession convinced me that was going to be enough, and that just hasn't been the case. So I appreciate getting this knowledge and how it breaks down so that I can understand it and that I can forget everything else and go for the spiritual experience. Thanks.
Sure, I'll take one. My name's Lisa, and I'm an alcoholic and an addict. And anyway, I just really need to say that Big Book Awakening saved my life. I had 5 years of dry time in Alcoholics Anonymous in my early 20s. And the whole time that I was there, I never saw or heard one motherfucker who had anything that I wanted. And anyway, so I never wanted to come back to Alcoholics Anonymous, and I was out for 12 and a half years. And, you know, I came into Big Book Awakening workshop loaded. Like, that's the only way I could get to a meeting. And but I got the message of Alcoholics Anonymous, you know, and I saw a bunch of people. There was like sincere evidence of like what happens to people when they work all 12 steps. And it was really, you know, and there was a clear, obvious message of Alcoholics Anonymous happening, you know, and wow, like you could be loaded to the gills and get the message. So I knew where to come, you know what I mean? And so like, and I'm alive today, you know, and so then, and we got Kelsey, and she, wow, I mean, you just send tingles through me, you know, to see what can happen in just 90 days. Like, you have what it takes spiritually to meet, you know, some of the biggest adversity in life and live through it sober. And you know, it's been just so beautiful to be able to give you what I have, you know. And so yeah. And you guys gave me that, and nobody can take it away from me unless I choose to take it away from myself. So, okay, so here's a question. Was I living to drink and use? Oh, yeah. Until I was, like, to the point where I couldn't live this way and I couldn't die this way either. I wasn't dying, you know, soon enough for my taste. So anyway, that's all I got. Thanks.
Your time for one more. Go away. Oh. We all know each other for so long.
My name's Greg. I'm an alcoholic and drug addict. First time I heard Lisa F. share was she talked about, I started smoking weed and then I tried heroin, and I was like, I want to party with her. So, yeah. Which one am I? There's like a bunch of them.
Yeah, anyone you want.
Did I believe that being entirely free from alcohol for a period of time, that I could take a drink without danger? I was sober for 9 years one time, and I didn't purposely believe that. I purposely believed that I would never drink again during that period of sobriety, but I didn't believe, like, I didn't consciously think, well, I guess I could drink, like, you know. I went through a divorce, and so there was some emotional stuff that I thought I could drink just to get rid of that pain, and I wouldn't be alcoholic. That wasn't the case. I drank, you know, I came out here to this place called California, and found the nectar of the gods, methamphetamine, and then really kicked it up a notch. And then methamphetamine cured my alcoholism, so I didn't have to worry about that anymore. So yeah. No, I didn't want to drink at all with meth. It's just like, what's the sense, you know? So I did that for a while, and then got sober again, and then was sober for a while, and then I relapsed again. But the theme for me is that the relapses have always been, and you know what? You said it today, and it made a lot of sense. This idea that I'm seeking ease and comfort, right? Every time I relapse has been emotional stuff. It was a death. It was my sponsor's death. It was my sister's death, divorce. It was never, like, I didn't know how to cope with that, sober or not sober, right? Because in my idea, a sober person, if you're sober and you're living this, doing the work and everything, then you should be able to handle that stuff. Well, I didn't handle that well at all. I couldn't handle it. And so I drank again and used again, and now I'm as a result of that, I can't stop on my own either. So I have to lock myself in facilities, psych wards and treatment programs to help me stay sober for the first 6 months while I start working steps and get some freedom, you know. And that's where I am again, one more time. But yeah, so that's where I go. Yeah, thank you.
We're going to pass the basket, and I have a couple of things to tell you about the homework. A couple of things to tell you about the homework. We're passing the basket. We do pay rent for this space, so if you can afford $2, please give it. And the homework is the first half of Bill's story. And we say to look for the similarities and not the differences, to underline everywhere you think, drink, and feel like Bill. And it's a great exercise for people new in the program because it helps them to go to meetings and look for the similarities. But if you've been around and this is your second time or third time through Bill's story, maybe you want to look for Bill's powerlessness. Maybe you want to look for Bill's emotional descent.
Can you remind everybody new that those 3 questions we asked? Have I felt like this?
Yes. Thank you for saying that. It's in the Big Book Awakening. You know, have I felt like this? Did I drink like this? Did I use like this? What else? Could you be? Well, I write on Bill's story on page 1. Above Bill's story, I write Tyla's story. What I do is everything that Bill did in the beginning, Bill's 1 to 9 is Bill's descent into what it was like, into his alcoholism, what happened and what it's like today. That is the second half. But I write all of my experience next to it. I have my book here if you don't want to see it, but I write, like, it says that Bill drank because he was lonely on page 1. I write some incidences where I remember I drank when I was lonely. It says on page 2 that his heroes were businessmen. You know, I write what were my heroes, rock stars and fashion designers. You know what I mean? Everything that I can write in that story to turn it into my story. You know, he made a geographic. You know, he went to Canada. I went to Thailand. You know what I mean? So I make it your story. Okay? Any questions about homework? Okay, let me see. A great consideration is, if you've been around and done the work before, you know, that I'm considering is, what would happen today if I picked up a drug or a drink? Not if you're new, but that's my consideration right now. Would the physical craving take me? And I stay in the work where we're at. We're in the physical craving up until the top of page 23. I don't go forward into anything else. Right now we're physical craving. Even though we may talk a little about mental obsession, I want to stay where I am in the work. Any questions? Joe will be speaking next week on Bill's story. So let's pray out. I mean, you can stay in your seats. Let's do the serenity prayer. The reason I do the serenity prayer is because I don't like to do the 3rd step prayer until we get to the 3rd step. I don't like to do the 7th step until we get to the 7th step because I believe it steals a little from it. So that's why I do the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. Can I have all the questions so I can
Can I borrow your book?
I never saw the lines. Yeah, but we also do it when we do it not to do it. You gotta really look at it.
I wonder if it's
Not out yet. It is so good. It's gonna be such a good thing to bring. It's because Dave has this way of funneling it down, like you can't sneak out. You know what I mean? Like this is the way to it. I knew he was working on it. I thought but I didn't have I just got a copy. I've been working on it. How are you feeling?
I don't know. I guess what just ask Rick. He's right here, right? Yeah.
I went to Tyla.
I'm gonna take the batteries out just so in case
Yeah, you can do pictures of it. Oh, right, because I want to do
everyone gets right. Why? Do you want me to share on that?
Yeah, but if you haven't taken it now.
Anything but that. Give me the
Okay.
Let me get your shoes. Yes.
Take pictures.
I was gonna go say hi to her. Yeah, me too. It was like,
I love your flower eyeballs. Hands.
I wanted to be quiet.
Who's here? Do you remember? Oh, the mic?
This one, yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Take your bottle, you litter bug. You're used to it when they go over and mess up.
My God, it's cold in here.